Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Strong, Grounded, Unstoppable podcast. I am so delighted to welcome Jim Bernado back to our stage, if you like. Jim and I are fascinated with what makes humans tick. And we both had watched the Manosphere, so we wanted to talk about it. Welcome, Jim. Remind us where you're from and what keeps you busy in your passion for helping people.
Hi, Susie. It's lovely to be with you again. So I live in Mexico, in southern Baja, the peninsula to the left of the Mexican mainland. I had as you know, I had a very long career in the technology industry. And then when I retired from that, due to a series of things that happened that all coalesced, I worked mostly with men, but increasingly with women as well, on healing childhood trauma.
Great.
So I am a trauma recovery coach,
Yes.
and like you, I write, I participate in, and sometimes lead groups, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of my passion in my retirement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Fantastic. I love what you do, because I suppose, being a woman in a woman's world, I don't often come across someone who's actually helping men, because actually they need it. And I remember International Women's Day, for instance, is huge worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And I never knew, and I don't think many men know, that there is an International Man's Day.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's in November, and it's
Yes.
not something that's celebrated. However, we're not really here to celebrate so much. We're here to, I don't know whether we're going to be disruptive, but it would be rather fun. But we both watched the Louis Theroux documentary Manosphere. And boy, oh boy, was I horrified. I put it out there on my social media, and the response from, well, I suppose my audience are women, but I couldn't watch it. I lasted 7 minutes and then had to stop. I thought they were they were horrible, actually. But there's probably a reason for that. And I'm sure you are going to be able to help us understand, I hope so, why these young men have turned out like this, have gone down this route of being such misogynists, such, in a way, spoilt, entitled brats. One of them was definitely a Trump sycophant. They were horrific to women. But there was one whose mother was on, and when she turned up, my God, she bossed him around. And I think they probably had mummy issues. And so I'm fascinated to learn why we have men like this in this day and age, where we've been trying to encourage and enable humanity, male and female, to have kindness, compassion, and ditch misogyny. So I'm sorry to drop you in it, Jim, but over to you.
Thank you, Susie. The more time that I spend reading about this and looking into it and where the origins are and so on and so forth, the more I'm beginning to believe that this is a very complex, tangled web of issues and problems.
Yes.
So, at my age, I don't like to think of myself as naive, but around this subject, before I watched Inside the Manosphere, around this subject, it turns out I was incredibly naive. Now, the reason for that, for me, is that I only became aware that there was something called the Manosphere during the last electoral cycle in the United States.
Right.
Because that's when they started talking about people like Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate,
Yeah.
that, these guys were speaking to younger men
Yeah.
in their 20s and even 30s. Um, and I said electoral cycle because uh, Rogan in particular was a huge Trump supporter, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so when I watched the documentary, I was angrier than I can remember being in a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I was sadder than I can remember
Yeah.
being in a
I
long time,
understand.
right?
Mm.
So, in looking, because I was unaware that the Manosphere was this huge thing that was so, this is a judgment, toxic,
Yes.
right?
I'd never heard of Manosphere until I saw on Netflix Louis Theroux's. It came up as,
Yeah.
top in the series. My my sort of puzzlement and concern is the age, 20s and 30s. I mean, shouldn't they know better? Are they
Should
so
they know better?
easily manipulated by what's going on around them?
Well, Susie, there are so many things that influence or that bear on this situation.
Okay.
As you and I have discussed in the past, we typically raise boys differently from how we raise girls.
Mm-hmm.
Boys almost from birth that, being vulnerable is weakness,
Mm-hmm.
needing emotional support is weakness,
Mm-hmm.
that showing your feelings is not okay. And,
Mm-hmm.
anger, on the other hand, is considered to be a masculine emotion,
Masculine. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, we talked in the previous webcast we did
Mm,
together about, podcast rather,
mm,
about the long range effects, both psychological and physical,
mm, mm.
on boys as they grow into men.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one thing. Put a placeholder there. Second thing is the internet,
Mm.
and
Mm.
right, and I'm old enough to remember when the internet first became
Mm.
a thing like widely available and so on and so forth. And I
Mm.
remember um, saying to my wife at the time that if I had it to do over again, I would go to law school and specialize in internet law, right? Because as is typical in the technology business, because you can create something doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
Number one. And
Yes.
number two, you need to be attentive to putting guardrails around whatever the technology is that you
Yeah.
create. And,
Yeah.
this is something that is very much a current conversation around artificial intelligence,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But the same thing was true around the internet. There was virtually no regulation of what you could put up. And so, boom, there's all kinds of stuff out there,
Yeah.
some of which is,
Mm.
accurate, but
Yeah.
much of which
Yeah.
is just,
And
you know,
right out there as well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is
So
dangerous.
put placeholder on that.
Mm-hmm.
Third thing that I've been thinking about. I don't know what the stats are in the rest of the world, but in the United States, basically one out of every two marriages ends in divorce.
I think about here in the UK, certainly the same.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but there tends to be, and I'm observing a fact. I'm not making a judgment about it, right? There tends to be a bias in favor of the woman in a divorce, particularly when it comes to the children,
Yes.
right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
almost all the time, the mothers get primary custody of their children, and the men, if they get partial custody, it's, I get to see my kids on weekends or, something like that. Now, in a case where the husband was abusive or violent or whatever, totally makes sense,
Yeah.
right? But in the cases where that's not the case, um, it results in these boys growing up without a model in a father of what it means to be a man, put a placeholder on that.
Yeah.
We've talked before, you and I, um, about how as women's empowerment has progressed
Mm,
through the 70s, 80s, 90s,
mm.
and I'm not going to stand here and say that y'all have arrived,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's still a great deal that we need to do as a society, but
Yes.
certainly women are, more equal now than
Yeah.
they were when I was
Yeah.
18, 20 years old,
Yes.
which is a long time ago, I admit. So take all of those things together. What's happened with women's empowerment is there hasn't been a corresponding
Mm-mm.
uh, effort or whatever to teach boys what it means to be a man
Man, yes. Yeah. Or
in a
male.
world in a
Yeah.
world where women are equal to you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Which is
Yeah, they've almost been emasculated early on in life, or the pendulum they feel swung too far the other way.
yes.
So they've got to get this sort of kind of
Well,
thing going.
it's not a zero sum game, right? Women becoming more empowered doesn't mean that men become less empowered.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that at all.
Yeah.
But we tend to think in extremes,
Hmm.
right? Um, so into that void of nobody teaching boys what it means to be a man in a world where women are your equal,
Mm-hmm.
right? A void will always, or a vacuum will always be filled by something,
Filled. Yeah.
right?
Mm.
So, interestingly about the manosphere is its roots began in something I was unaware of at the time called, wasn't the empowerment movement, men's liberation movement is what it was
Okay.
called.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea in the men's liberation movement was, surprise, surprise, men should be more emotionally expressive. It's okay to show your feelings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So what has now developed into the manosphere is diametrically opposite,
Yeah.
right?
Because
What
it's more
started,
exciting, you
pardon
know,
me?
is it because that it's more exciting and appealing to some, to some, the
Well,
men who
I
join
mean,
it.
in the absence of a more positive, set of or more positive modeling of what it means to be a man,
Mm.
anything that gets fed to these younger men
Yeah.
will be taken in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, in the US, going back to the whole political cycle, an increasingly larger percentage of the younger men
Mm.
who voted for Donald Trump in the
Mm.
last election are now expressing regret over that decision.
Okay.
And not because gas prices are through the roof, eggs are too expensive, all that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously that has an impact.
Mm.
And also, they're increasingly seeing what has come out of Trump being the president as undesirable.
Yeah.
Things
Good.
like Trump calling a female reporter piggy or calling a female reporter stupid,
Yeah. Yeah.
those kinds of things. And, the hopeful flicker there is that younger men who are becoming disillusioned by that
Yeah. Good.
start looking for more healthy models of what it means.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the other thing that played into this, paradoxically, was COVID.
Okay.
And it did in the sense, and so I'll share, personal perspective about this. My ex-wife was, she was involved in delivering an onboarding program to new employees at Microsoft.
Uh-huh.
And they had them segmented into different groups, right?
Yeah.
Those who came out of industry, those who.
Yeah.
And my ex-wife was focused on onboarding for recent college grads, so
Okay.
young,
Yeah.
right? Oh my gosh, when COVID hits, Now you have this whole population of young people who, wherever they lived before, had picked up and moved to the Seattle area.
Yeah.
But because of COVID and work from home, most of them had never met their manager or their peers in person.
Right.
And they were isolated in
Living,
their
yes.
apartments,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, again, that had some impacts on the young men in particular.
Yeah.
This whole feeling of isolation and no ability to connect with other people, right?
People. And they're going online and browsing and spending a lot of time with the
Precisely.
things that come to them as well in their face. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Sad in a way.
So, like I said, big tangled up web
Yeah.
of multiple things influencing all this. By the way, there's also a sociologist out of Australia, of all places,
Mhm.
who coined the term hegemonic masculinity.
Okay.
And hegemonic masculinity is all these things we're talking about. Men are superior to women. Women should, be
Yeah.
subservient to men.
Yeah.
Homosexuality is an abomination.
Yeah.
Transphobia, all this kind of stuff he
Oh,
calls hegemonic masculinity.
hegemonic.
Go watch Inside the Manosphere, and you see that in
Oh,
real life,
beautifully laid out.
beautifully illustrated, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, and we could talk for hours just about this, but the question now is, so what do we do about
I was going to say, so can anything be done? Can we sort of stop, if not stop the rot, is protect other young men from this being so appealing to them, because it's so not right. And I can't believe that in such a toxic environment, both externally and internally, they can't be really happy.
it? Yeah.
I'm not sure that they can be really happily fulfilled. Not with it's just so toxic.
Well, and as the well, a couple of things. You know about my involvement in an organization called the Mankind Project.
Yes,
The
yes.
Mankind Project has kind of gone off the rails, but that's a topic for another day.
Okay.
Um, the slogan for the Mankind Project used to be changing the world one man at a time,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Would that I could wave my magic wand and all of this would go away, but I can only do what I can do with one man, or a small group of men, and hopefully they then go do it with their friends or other groups, and eventually it has a ripple effect, and we get
Mm.
aimed in the right direction. Um, One of the hopeful things for me with the younger generation now, and what I'm going to describe is just a microcosm here in Mexico.
Yeah.
Um, I had tried a couple of times over the last 5.5 years that I've been here
Yeah.
to organize some men's groups here,
Yeah.
and I had a lot of interest. And the men would send me private messages. We never really got a group off the ground. The men would send me private messages and say, listen, I absolutely would love this. I would absolutely need this.
Mm.
And I can't be that vulnerable among other men
Mm.
because Mexico is a very
Yeah.
macho culture,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, I was telling this story some time ago to a friend of mine who's American. She's lived here for 30 years, right? And her son grew up here.
Mhm.
He's, I think, in his early 30s now, right? And she was telling me that, all of his friends are Mexican, right? Because he grew up here.
Yeah.
And that the men of his generation are not like that older generation of men that are just, you know,
Mm.
scared to be
Mm.
vulnerable in
Mm.
front of
Yeah.
other men.
Mm. Mm.
So, if the opportunity is there, let's feed it. If the vacuum
Mm.
is getting
Mm.
created, let's be deliberate about filling it with things that are more positive.
Yes, and maybe mix up the generations in a man's group.
Yeah,
And also for me, it would be so good to put women and men in the same room and just talk about the things that trigger or the things that make us feel vulnerable, or what's worked and hasn't worked. I mean, as you know, I've been married and divorced 3 times, and I married bullying, controlling, or dysfunctional men. That's what I attracted because of my low self-worth. That's why I do the work I do with women now. And I think I attracted those because I couldn't fix it for my father with what he went through with my mother, who emasculated him. She was very much the controlling one, and he was the kind gentleman. But particularly, it's that vulnerability element. My mother didn't do vulnerability, and so she was, in a way, the masculine. She was very much in her masculine, what do you call it?
Energy.
Energy, yes. And it was awful. And so these things need to be laid out and talked about with men and women together, because how else are we going to go forward and give lead by example to the next generations? And the other thing is, it's never too late to make positive changes. To those Mexican men, if there was something tangible that they could see that would bring an advantage to them, to show to feel some vulnerability and then be able to show it, that would be amazing.
Well, and so Susie, it's really interesting to me, the cultural thing, right?
Yeah,
So the men externally are, very macho. No, I could never be vulnerable in another
yeah,
group of men.
yeah.
And yet in the home, it's the woman who runs things,
True. I
right?
get, yes,
And
yeah,
that's, I mean, culturally, with me having an ethnic heritage that's Italian,
yes,
it's the same thing, right?
yes,
The men make a lot of noise until they're in the house, and then, the woman is
yes.
like, right?
Do you think that's actually not been such a good thing? Because when they're out the house, they have to show their masculinity, because they can't do it when they're in their own
Well,
home.
so, this is, as you know, a very dear friend of mine and I are putting together a workshop
Yeah.
that's intended to be co-ed, right?
Mm?
And we are calling the workshop Hello Me.
Yeah.
And the whole idea behind the workshop is for people to be able to discover or rediscover who they are
Mm.
as
Mm.
authentically human beings,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I've been playing around with the idea of sort of opening it up with something that I saw someplace and I really liked it, which was, if I asked you to introduce yourself
Mm.
and you can't tell me what you do to make money,
Mm.
you
Mm.
can't tell me your political beliefs,
Mm.
you can't tell me,
Your
your
mother or
societal
father. Yeah.
roles,
Yeah.
what are your hobbies? None of that. I'm not
Yes.
interested in hearing any of that.
Ooh.
Now introduce yourself to me,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Hard.
And, my guess is that nearly all the men and probably a substantial number of the women will be a little bit perplexed and confused.
Yes.
So
They're
I'm going to have to
challenged.
model. I'm
Yeah.
going to have to model that, right? Um, but the idea behind what we're trying to do, to your point, is to strip down all of the roles and
Mm.
expectations and things I take on as who I am that are not really genuinely about who I am
Yeah.
underneath it all,
Mm.
right? um and that's, it's a step toward the kind of healing between,
Yeah.
individually but also between
Yeah.
sexes, right?
And I love that, because we're also not many of the things we deeply believe that we've taken on board as a child.
Right.
And so it's peeling that back. I love that. So I think we'll do this again, and certainly we'll have a podcast a couple of months before your Hello Me. Is it a
Yeah.
retreat, or what are you calling it?
Um, well, I mean, it's a retreat in the sense that we're going to do it here in La Paz. So if you
Okay.
want to, and you got to come here, right? And the idea is it's a weekend, Friday afternoon through Sunday afternoon,
Yes, yes. Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
a, yeah.
Okay.
And we'll see what we're able to attract in
Mm,
terms of participants, right?
mhm, mm.
Uh, in some ways, just the cost of being able to do it is going to limit the audience a little bit. And I'm hoping that we get enough people who are able to pay for it that we can maybe, scholarship some of the people that can't
Yes, that would be
afford
great.
it.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
And, not doing this to become a millionaire, right?
Mm.
But I don't want to, go in the hole over it. I'd like to
Yeah.
give it a break
Oh,
even.
exactly. And that's one of the things that we do. We deserve to be, and it makes sense to be rewarded for what we do, even if it is serving other people and helping them to become much more of who they are, but also who they want to be.
Yeah.
I would love next time to talk about the childhood element, because the more I go into my work helping women, and I've coming around to going back more deeply into the childhood elements, and of course that's where you have done a lot of work with childhood trauma.
Yes.
And so if you wouldn't mind coming back on maybe in a couple of months, Jim, and we can talk about that.
Susie, I would be happy to come on and do this with you anytime you want.
Oh, that's great. Well, if there's
Anytime.
anything that you would like to talk about as well, I'm really happy. If you've got some subjects that you would like to discuss, then let's do it, because your wisdom and your warmth. I'm very blessed. I know a lot of people men and women, who I can describe warm and wise, and you are definitely right up there with them, Jim. And that's partly nature, and that's partly you've educated yourself to that. And I think that's where education and knowledge becomes good power.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm distracted for a second because I wanted to look up this book. I don't know if we've talked before about Michael Pollan.
Yes. No, yes. Yes, we did, but I don't know if we've done it on a recorded podcast.
No, I don't think we have either. But
Mm.
one of the things that has totally captured my attention lately is the whole study of consciousness
Yes.
and how it has sort of graduated out of the realm of the metaphysical and philosophical
Yeah.
into the realm of hard science.
Okay.
And, there's again, this is a subject for another time, but there's some research that has been done with rats around anesthesia where they were able to give the rats some sort of a chemical that blocked microtubules in the brain.
Mm.
What they found was that it took longer or they were unable at all to go unconscious.
Okay.
And so they extrapolated out from that consciousness is, maybe something that creatures embody, but also something that is greater and outside of us, right?
Okay.
And the whole, there's a concept in quantum physics, which is one domain that I have a really hard time wrapping my
Mm.
brain around.
Mm.
But there's a concept in quantum physics called entanglement, which
Yes.
basically says that, if you look at an object here, you can't fully understand this object without understanding this other object that's light years away from it because those two things are entangled,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And, it also describes things like how light can be both a particle and a wave at the same time, right?
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's getting into the realm of a little bit esoteric. But anyway, Paulin has written a new book called A World Appears, A Journey into Consciousness.
I wrote this down somewhere in my diary. I've got that scribbled down at the bottom of the page.
I must
Yeah,
have said it to you before.
I have. And I think this would be potentially a good subject around that,
Yeah.
the subconscious and the unconscious, which is so powerful in how we behave and think about
Well,
it.
and so, Susie, the interesting thing and germane to this conversation that we've been having is if we really are connected on the level of consciousness,
Mm.
because it's something we embody and also something we participate in,
Yeah,
we are more alike than we are unalike,
yeah.
right? I don't know if I shared with you a short paper that I wrote right after Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead died in January.
Yeah.
And I had seen some interviews that he had done, years before, in which he talked about consciousness. And he talked about when Jerry Garcia died, how Jerry would come to him in his dreams, that he would feel Jerry on his shoulder whispering in his ear when he was on stage performing.
Gosh.
And some of the other, like Bill Kreutzmann, who was the drummer for the Dead, and Phil
Yeah.
Lesh, who was the bass
Yeah.
player, talked about having similar experiences.
Okay. Wow.
So, between the quantum physics stuff, the whole idea about consciousness,
Mm.
and this was inspired in me by Bob Weir's passing, I wrote this paper called Quantum Physics, Consciousness, and the Grateful Dead. But at the end of that paper, there's a poem by Maya Angelou. And, it's a fairly longer poem, and I really, really loved it. But the line at the end, which actually is repeated a couple of other places in the poem, because we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Beautiful.
there's a whole other podcast or
Well,
series.
other podcasts there. I think there always will be. And Maya Angelou, what a woman.
Oh,
Just amazing. Can you send me? Can people access that paper if they
yeah.
want?
I think I put it on Substack. I will send it to you.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if I put it on my website because it was one of those stream of consciousness things that,
Yes.
I sat
Yes.
down and it all
Yeah.
just began to spill out of my brain.
Yeah.
Um,
Do let me have it. It's just in case somebody asks for it, especially
sure,
Grateful Dead fans.
sure.
This is all so positive and exciting. Just learning and communicating and
Mm,
being out there. And Jim, thank you so much. I will guide people towards you in the notes of this. Yeah, thank you,
Susie,
everybody.
always a complete pleasure for me.
Oh,
I
thank you.
thoroughly enjoyed
You
talking.
make me feel a little bit intelligent.
You're more than a little bit intelligent, Susie.
Well, you see, isn't it interesting? Because my first childhood memory is my mother when I was 2, and their bedroom was empty and it was dark, and I got up and went into their bedroom because I needed her, and I stood at the top of the stairs and was crying, screaming, and she came to the bottom of the stairs and was cross with me, really angry. Go back to bed, you stupid girl. And for so long that I've had this subconscious, unconscious thing that I'm stupid. I'm bloody well not stupid, but it's amazing how that impact of
Well,
that,
yeah. I mean,
you know,
that's part of the whole childhood trauma
it
thing.
is, yeah. But
I was
I'm not
stupid.
stupid, but I joke, I jest a little bit when you say you make me feel a little bit intelligent. But I'm sure that people listening to you, you're so easy and good to listen to, Jim. So thank you for this, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this and found it fascinating, informative, inspiring, uplifting, all of those things. We'll be back again. And please remember to, if you like this, to like and subscribe, because we want to really get out there with what we're doing. Jim's focused. Well, he's a man and he works with men and women, but the men thing is important. I'm more focused on helping women. But the more we come together, I think the better and the more interesting and fun as well in the future. If we can just make a little bit of difference, touch one person, let's go more, let's go one man and one woman each time, then that would be just brilliant. So thank you for listening and watching, and we'll be back again soon. Stay with me, Jim. Thanks, everybody.